Good afternoon, good evening. Hi, everyone. Hello, Brenda from West Monroe. Nice to see you. Welcome to this evening's call. Good to see you all again. It's been a minute since we spoke, so this is good. I'll shout out some people in the chat really quickly. I see, oh, big numbers in Oregon. That's very exciting. Dr. Jacqueline Rose, very cool. Hello to Michelle Turner. I've seen your name a lot, so nice to see you again. So we're gonna do an icebreaker. It's gonna be, have you ever de-escalated an argument before? And what are 1 to 2 words that describe what strategy worked best for you? I'll also put this in the chat just for everyone to be able to see it, to be able to do their
We'll
thing.
actually have a Mentimeter, just like last time. So we'll share the instructions in just a second. I'm sure London will talk about it in just a minute.
Slay. Thank you. Shout out to Kaden. We're gonna do a minute meter then. Also acknowledging that training is better with a partner. Highly recommend. If you have someone that you wanted to invite here, definitely feel free to do that now. Just use the link through Zoom. Let them come into the Zoom link that you're already in, so it works that way. Also, if you're here with someone, or if you're here with other people and you're in person, if you just mute the call for about 2 minutes, you can do it in person for any of the little icebreakers or anything like that that we do. Yeah, so okay, here we go. Now we're going to the millimeter. This is getting good now. So, like I said, we're going to take 2 minutes here. If you want to exit the Zoom, if you're in person, we'll go to the next slide and then Caden will help me introduce that. Okay, here we go. So, if you want to go to the Zoom, or if you're in person and you want to get out of the Zoom, you're going to go to the audio setting. It's going to be at the bottom left of your screen. Thank you, Caden. Very lovely. Then you're going to click Leave Computer Audio. And then when you want to come back, you just click join audio. It's actually very intuitive. Shout out to Zoom. And then that's how we'll do the icebreaker if you're in person. But if you're here, then you can just put in the chat or also, I'm sorry, Minimeter. Minimeter. Okay, may I get the next slide? Just to make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna do a Minimeter then. So I already asked, but you guys can just do it in 1 to 2 words in the Minimeter for the icebreaker. So for Minimeter, you're just gonna take your phone and then you can just hold it up to the screen here, and then you can answer it that way, or you can add in the code that you can see at the bottom, 19566019. You'll add that code into minty.com. And then also, thank you, Med, for putting it in the chat again for the icebreaker. But we also have it on screen. I was getting ahead of myself, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm very excited for this, obviously. Um, okay. The answers are rolling in. This is very exciting. Um, okay, and it's loading now. I think for me, oh, calm. That's a good one. That's what I was gonna say. I was thinking like calm, empathy. That's literally what I was gonna say. Active listening, a lot of calm, and a lot of active listening and empathy. This is very good. I think that's the best way to go about something like this. I feel like going empathetically is definitely the way to go about everything in life. Listening, space, speaking softly. That's very interesting. Understanding, friendly, love that. Again, we're doing a Mentimeter just in case other people have just joined. Hello, welcome. We're gonna do this icebreaker right now. It's just, have you ever de-escalated an argument before? What are 1 to 2 words that describe what worked best for you? So feel free to join our Mentimeter. You can just scan this barcode here. Um, maybe it's, oh, QR code. Scan the QR code, or you can join using the code, which is 19566019 at minty.com. These are very, very good. Listening, calm, empathy, taking a break. That's also underrated, in my opinion. Definitely take a break, take a second, slowing down your breath, speak slowly, staying calm. Thank you. These are all really, really great answers. Thank you. Again, if you're new here, if you're solo, please introduce yourself in the chat. It's nice to see you all. And then, yeah, I think Kaden, we can go ahead and do the next thing to make sure that we can get this on the road. We have very, very great guest speakers, so I definitely want to save time for them. I'll do a quick thank you to our partners. I feel like we talk about the same ones a lot, so I'm gonna actually shout out different ones. So, huge shout out to the Unitarian Universalist for Social Justice. I've seen so many of you all on the like in the chat anyway, so huge shout out to you. The Workers Circle, um, let's see, Task Force for Democracy, Texans Against Gerrymandering. Thank you. Our Revolution, huge shout out to all of you, as well as our ones who are always there as well. So shout out to, Women's March, League of Women Voters. Thank you kindly. And then may I get the next slide, please? Okay, awesome. So I will go over the agenda for tonight. We're going to do a welcome, an overview, report back for May Day events. I'm sure a lot of you all were a part of that. Thank you so much. We're going to do an action ask on No King/Flag Day, which if you don't know about it yet, no worries. We have a very lovely person who's going to be able to help you out there. Then we're going to do an in-depth training, which probably is why you all are here, on bystander intervention and de-escalation. And then also just noting for captioning, closed captioning is available. We'll put it in the agenda for how you can, or not in the agenda, sorry, in the chat, how you can do it. Thank you, Med. And you can do it that way. With that being said, I want to thank you all. Oh, just kidding. I have more to say. This is what this is what the Rise for Freedom trainings are looking like. So these are our past ones, and then these are the ones that we're gonna do. And then as you can see, there's one that we're doing as well. Darcy loves captions. I love captions too. I do it every time. With that being said, thank you all so much for your time. I will pass this to the lovely Akene.
Thank you, London. I love when London leads a call. You always feel like you're in the space with her. So really excited. I just wanted to give a shout out to a couple more allies. We are a 40 group coalition doing Rise for Freedom, and you're going to see some of the partners like Public Citizen, like League of Conservation Voters, on the screen, but we also have key partners behind the scenes helping answer your questions and making sure that you have everything you need. So shout out to Wisdom Cole from the NAACP, one of our newest partners. We're so thrilled to be working with you. And also Med from Corporate Accountability helping out on the back end too. And some of you've heard from Med already. You'll be hearing from all these folks live as well on future trainings. So thank you so much. Next slide. So really quick, our ethos, we are trying to build a big tent to make sure that we can organize to be in a democracy together, even if we disagree on some things. We want to disagree within a democracy. We want a system where the voters decide, and we want to stop Trump's autocratic power grab. We want to be welcoming. We are love-centered. We are joyful. That's why we have amazing music every time. We want to be connected, and we want to support in-person gatherings. Even if it's just one other person, we want you to build connection. That is vital for doing this work. You can't just do it alone. You have to do it together to be powerful. We want you to do continuous outreach and recruitment. If you're not meeting new people, bringing new people in, you can't sustain energy. You can't grow to be the powerful folks that we know you can be. We're going to do deep training. We're going to call folks in. And that doesn't mean just calling in folks who say something that offends somebody on the left. It means calling in folks who say something that might offend someone who's more on the right, or might offend someone because of their faith, or might offend someone for any other reason. We call them in, we one-on-one chat with them, and we say, hey, I noticed this thing. I just want to let you know I was worried it might hurt someone, or maybe it hurt me. And we work with each other to learn and be open to that. So next slide. We never support violent tactics. There is a universe of non-violent direct action tactics that are part of the response to autocratic moves and democratic backsliding around the world. And these are part of the story of how different countries and people have been able to protect or move towards democracy. However, on these calls, we're not going to ask anyone to break the law, nor are we going to tell attendees how to do those nonviolent direct action tactics that push into non-legal activities. That is not this call. However, we are nonpartisan and we are welcoming to everybody who wants to make a difference in this space. Next slide. So now we're going to ask you a bunch of questions. We have some polls. It should pop up on your screen as a pop-up. If you don't see it, or get notification of it, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a polls and quizzes option perhaps. Most of you will see a pop-up. And the first question is, did you attend a May Day event? We had a pause last week for everyone to be able to focus on organizing or attending May Day. We're going to be hearing a report back from one of the events in Baltimore shortly. And so just let us know, did you organize one? Did you attend? Couldn't make it? Just curious. The next question, how did your outreach to someone you might disagree with go over the last 2 weeks? So for those of you who are on our training at the end of April, we did a training on how to talk to people you might disagree with. And we asked you to plan and commit to at least one, if not more, one-on-one conversations with people you think might disagree with you, where you think you can find common ground on democracy. And so we're asking you, how did that outreach go if you did it? Did you do 2 or more one-on-ones? Did you have a one-on-one and it was awesome and you're working on your next one with that same person or a different person? You had a one-on-one and it was really hard and you need more support. And we suggest Braver Angels, a More Perfect Union. There's a bunch of folks that train people in depth how to have these conversations. They're so important. Thank you so much for having the hard ones. Thank you so much. Just say that. You made a plan to reach out, but you have to follow through. You're going to write in the chat. If you haven't reached out for your one-on-one, write in the chat now. When are you going to do that? Make a commitment to us. We're going to be your accountability buddies, and hopefully you come back next week and let us know, hey, I did it, or hey, I need more support. You made a list of people to reach out to, but you haven't. And you're going to put in the chat when you're going to meet that commitment. You don't know anyone you disagree with. 11 of you don't know anybody. Which means that maybe you need to get out into new spaces and meet some people you might disagree with at the coffee shop, at the library, at the bus stop, and challenge you to do that. You weren't at the last training. That's lots of you. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. And we'd love for you to reach out to someone you might disagree with. Some of you are scheduling and you haven't had your one-on-one yet. And some of you just aren't in a good place to have a hard conversation. And that is real. Totally cool with that. You're making a good choice for yourself to heal and take care of you. And hopefully you'll get to a healthy, happier place where maybe you feel like you have the strength, but it's okay that that's not right now. Okay, so that's the second question. That's a doozy. Third, are you hosting a training right now? 11 of you are. That's fantastic. Would you be willing to host in the future? We have these trainings every Thursday through June 5th. Lots of great topics. Hosting can just mean having a friend over, your spouse joining you. It doesn't have to be huge, but you can also say, hey, I want to do this. Do you want to host every other week with me? We'll just bring hummus and chips and do this. Some of you are looking for a venue. Some of you are filling out the host form right now that's in the chat, and London can help you get that link. A bunch of you are maybes, can't commit right now, but you're hosting or attending a June 14th Flag Day No Kings event, which is awesome. We're going to hear about that shortly. And some folks can't do any of that, and we're still so glad you're here. Everybody has something they can contribute. Next question, 2 more. Thanks for your patience. We found that we can just roll these in and then have more time for the big training if we do them all at once. We want to know how old you are. We're trying to get a sense of our audience, so thank you for answering that question. And then finally, the most pithy question we have for you. What future trainings would you like to see? What level of interest do you have in the next step for this training series? We know our end date now. We're going to wrap up in June with this particular round. Would you like to attend a training like this in person? One day, the whole series, one day, one training. Would you like to be part of hosting that training, making it happen, finding a venue, bringing the snacks? Would you want to be a trainer? Would you want to get trained on how to be the trainer like Nadine and Justin are going to be today, our main trainers, so that we can have more trainings because we need more of those folks? If you're someone who can just attend virtually, that's good to know, and you're ready to focus on other stuff. So those are your options for next steps after the training is over, and we'll give folks a couple more minutes. About 70% of you have finished the poll, so I want to give folks 1 more minute to answer the rest. And then we will move on. If you're just joining, you may have missed the poll popping. Otherwise, look near the bottom of your screen. Let's see. Let's see if I can get a QR code for you and see if that helps. Yeah, I don't think I can do that, unfortunately. Sorry if it's not popping up for you. I think we should keep going so we have time to get to the main training. You can do the next slide. So it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Ryan Harvey, who's going to be speaking as a private person about May Day last week. Take it away, Ryan.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Yeah, my name's Ryan. I'm from Baltimore, and I just want to give a quick, just quick report back from what we did here because I think it was really significant and really beautiful. Looks like my slides didn't actually make it in. Oh well. So, oh, there we are. Cool. So what we did in Baltimore is we wanted to create. So we had a big protest a few weeks before, and we wanted to do something that was different enough that it excited people because we were realizing that folks really needed a sense of hope, a sense of, you know, it's worthwhile to try to be out in the streets. Protests can get boring sometimes when they're repetitive. So we wanted to do something fresh, but familiar enough. So we created this idea. Well, we didn't create it. It's an idea I knew when I was younger, but we had these things called feeder marches. So in order to create the big tent where everyone was protesting together, we thought instead of like asking folks to sort of, you know, put their different, you know, political tendencies and the different issues they focus on to the side and come to the unified rally, we said, let's honor the different things that folks are working on and then physically bring those all together. So you can see here the graphic we did. So we had 7 different feeder marches on different themes from different parts of the city, and they all marched around the same time, and they all arrived in the same plaza together. And we had me on walkie-talkie staggering them by 5 minutes so that it was really exciting. As each group arrived, there was celebrations, and folks really felt like it was a snapshot of what we have here in the city and of the different issues that folks focus on. And it made the unified rally feel a lot more, I think, significant. So in total, we had like 4,000 people, which is very large for a city like Baltimore. So we can go to the next slide. So here's just a few pictures from some of the marches. This was the Migrant Justice March. This was largely organized by folks who work in the refugee resettlement sector in Baltimore, many of whom have recently lost their jobs, as much of that funding was cut. You can go to the next slide. Then we had, this was a Palestine march. So Jewish Voice for Peace was having their national gathering in Baltimore the same weekend. So we collaborated. This is a very large gathering of Jewish activists from across the US. You can go to the next one. This was the student march. So this came from Johns Hopkins University. There were high school students, university students, faculty. You can go to the next one. This was the labor march. So we had like 14 unions endorsing the protests in Baltimore, including some of the largest ones in the city. Very exciting, not normal. And that took a lot of coalition building for months and years of relationship building here in the city, but also the fact that some of these unions nationally were supporting the National Day made that participation really nice. But lots of rank and file workers came out. Definitely the biggest May Day we've had in Baltimore in living memory. You can go to the next one. And this was a shot of the Families and Kids March. So at one of our trainings, a woman had said, hey, we should try to do something that folks can bring their kids to. And this had like 700 people. We bought many hundreds of dollars worth of pizza. So there was free pizza for everybody. That was really awesome. That marched on the sidewalk, of course. And you can go to the next one. And another thing we did, because we really wanted to create a sense of place at the rally, so we didn't want it to feel like you're just looking at one stage the whole time and listening to speakers. So we had 2 stages, and one of the stages just had a band made up largely of Baltimore City high school teachers playing different kinds of music. And so when speakers would finish, the band would play, and then the next speaker, and they would stop, and they played at the beginning and the end. So it was really cool because you were like turning from stage to stage. It felt almost like you were at a festival, and we really wanted to provide that. So we thought of this less as a protest and more as a kind of a celebration, and also just like a reminder that we have a lot of people out here who are really beautiful and brilliant. So I wanted to share that because I think that yeah, as we move forward, we have to be thinking not just about getting protests to be larger and larger and learning to organize and building coalitions, but we also have to be creating moments that are intentional, that are providing people with something that folks need. And so it might not always be they need to vent their anger. Sometimes they need to feel hope. Sometimes they need points of connection. So that's what we did in Baltimore, and I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat that folks have.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I'm gonna keep it moving to Danny Negretti from Indivisible. No Kings.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on. I am so happy to be here. My name is Danny Negretti. I am the National Political Director with Indivisible, and I am thrilled to be here to talk about No Kings. It is our next major national day of action. On June 14th, Americans across the country are going to come together in marches, rallies, and demonstrations to reject a corrupt authoritarian politics in the United States. This Flag Day, we are coming together to embrace core American values and say with one voice that our country accepts no kings. This is a mobilization that is really inspired by the success of Hands Off and by this major mobilizations that we saw on May Day across the country. And it is intended to once again motivate actions in towns and cities in every state in the country, across the country, in rural areas, suburban areas, urban areas alike. And together, we're going to create a moment of contrast between the people power of this movement and the self-aggrandizing authoritarian perversions of the folks who want to take Flag Day and turn it into a celebration of their own power. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what No Kings is going to be and what we're actually trying to achieve in these particular moments. No Kings is a national day of action and mass mobilization that's in response to the increasing authoritarian excesses and corruption of the administration and its allies. We've watched as they've cracked down on free speech. They've detained people for their political positions. They have attacked our civil rights and threatened to deport American citizens. They've defied the courts, and they have done this all while continuing to serve and enrich their billionaire allies. We understand that they think that they rule, and on this day, they are going to have a military parade in Washington, D.C. But we understand too that we are bigger than even their worst authoritarian aspirations. The display that they intend to put on in DC on the 14th is really intended to intimidate opponents and solidify an image of a strong man. And it's all going to be on our dime. $50 million spent on a military parade while they're actively trying to cut things like Social Security, Medicare, and SNAP. So instead of allowing this military parade to be the center of gravity on that day, we're going to make action everywhere else in the country the story of that day. People coming together in communities across the country to reject strongman politics and corruption. That's why we're partnering with folks from Public Citizen, 5051, AFT, organizations across the ecosystem in order to come together and really show a pro-democracy, pro-worker movement and demonstrate people power that will outpace any authoritarian aspirations. A really key thing here that I want to drive home is that we're not telling people to come protest in DC. We actually want to make sure that the center of gravity is everywhere else. On that day, we want to produce contrast, not conflict. And we're really being intentional about building something that is additive and congruent with other mobilizations that are happening during this time. That includes, veterans recognitions that are happening on the 6th, Juneteenth that's happening on the 19th, and the Pride celebrations that are happening throughout the month of June. I do want to share just a little bit about how we think about mobilizations like this before I let you go. We are really being intentional about driving a core narrative intervention, which is that there are a surprising number of people in a surprising number of places who are mobilized in opposition to the authoritarian excesses we're going to see on display here in DC. We also want to continue to draw in and disengaged and unactivated people and invite them off the sidelines and into action with us. We want to continue to shift the political climate to make sure that we are creating a ecosystem where people feel comfortable taking actions and being in community together, just like Ryan was saying, and finding what brings them to the table, whether it is a protest action or a community-based action. We want to make sure that people feel invited in on these days and have opportunities to bring what they care about into this moment. And finally, as part of that, we want to generate a sense of community and identity throughout all of this and really bring people in together. So we are looking for more event hosts. You can go to nokings.org. It's right there with the QR code. We have a host toolkit. We already have several hundred events posted on the map just this week, and we are really looking forward to making this a great big event on the 14th that really encapsulates the values, the American values and rejection of kingly aspirations on that day. So thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you all can join us.
Thank you so much, Danny and Indivisible and everybody throwing down on this. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Will Adler, for today's digital hygiene tip. Will.
Thanks, Akane. I'm Will Adler. I work on voting rights and making sure voting machines are secure and accessible, but I also care about making sure that people have good personal cybersecurity. So at each of these trainings, we've been aiming to include a quick digital hygiene tip, hopefully something you can do right now. Good cybersecurity is important for everyone, and it's especially important for activists. So last time I was here, I talked about two-step verification, and many of you enabled it for your email accounts, which, while we were on the call, which immediately improved your personal security. But today we're going to focus on your phone's location settings. So, and this is another thing you can improve in just a few minutes. So sharing your location data with apps is a useful thing, and I'm sure everyone here has done it. So obviously, if you're driving somewhere and you want to use Google Maps to navigate, you need the app to know where you are, which means sharing your data with Google. If you're searching Yelp for a nearby restaurant, it can be helpful to share your location data with Yelp as well. But if you just use Yelp once a month, obviously you don't need to be sharing your data with Yelp all of the time. So we're going to focus today on bringing the amount of location data you share with apps down to just the minimum that you actually need. So why does this matter? Well, your phone is a powerful tool, but it also collects a lot of sensitive information about you. Apps can request access to your location, and some of them may be collecting and sharing that data in ways that you're not aware of. And here are 3 reasons why this matters. Your privacy. Some apps don't really need your location, but ask for it anyway, which means they're collecting and possibly sharing your whereabouts without good reason. And because we have no federal privacy protections in the US, there are no limits to what those app makers can do with your data, including sell it to anyone. Security is second. If an attacker compromises an app or a database that an app company controls, that attacker could potentially see your location data and track your movements. And finally, just pragmatically, is battery life. Background location tracking can drain your battery. So we're going to do a quick check. If you can go to the next slide, please. We're going to just I want you to open up your phone settings right now. And this works pretty similarly on iPhone and Android. I've got where things are stored on iPhone on the left and how you get to it on Android on the right. So if you have an iPhone, I want you to open up your settings app, tap privacy and security, where's the picture of the blue hand, and then location services. So, if you use Android, you open up your settings and you go to location. And when you're in there, you should see a list of apps. So on my iPhone, I see a list of apps. The app name is on the left, and on the right, it says how often my phone shares my location data with that app. Some of these apps next to it will say always. That means that these apps are getting your data where all the time and track wherever you go. I limit this to just a very, very small number of apps, and I have my reasons to share my location data with those apps. And I would recommend that you also try to keep those to an absolute minimum. Uh, Plenty of other apps say they only get my location data while I'm using the app. This might be good for your Yelp app, for instance. And with some of them, you can even tap on the app and say, when I share my location data with this app, I don't even want it to know my precise location. I just want maybe to know the neighborhood. So you can tap on any of these apps and change how much data, how frequently you're sharing your data with these apps, and sometimes you can make it so you're not even sharing your precise location. So what I want you to do is just take a minute right now, maybe about the next 30 seconds, look through this list. If we can go to the next slide. And as you're looking through this list, you don't have to finish this now. It's probably a very long list. I want you to look at these apps and think to yourself, one, do I actually use this app? Do I even know what it does? If not, disable its location or uninstall it later. Another question to ask, does it really need my location? Maybe this is an app that you need, but it just doesn't do anything functional that benefits you with your location data. And so you can disable it. How often does it need my location? Well, sometimes you want to share location data with an app, but maybe not all the time. So you can change it from always to only while using. So let's just take a little bit of time looking at that. Someone posted a good question. What about system services? That is an app. That is a section on my iPhone. And I would go in there and just think about, am I using this feature, and turn it off if not. So, think of this as part of a regular audit that you should do with your phone. Your phone keeps track of so much about you. It's important to be thoughtful and diligent about the data it collects on you. So please write in the chat if you were able to do this and decrease the amount of location data that you share, even just for a few apps. You can finish it later. And if you want to go deeper on this, check out activistchecklist.org. It's a great resource for more security and privacy tips. Thank you so much. If you have any security questions, please put them in the Q&A and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will. It's practical, it's fast, it's smart. Thank you, and hope everyone gets to finish this activity. All right, let's go to the next slide and get ready to present our trainers for the night. So Justin Kwasa is the director of the Democracy Program for the League of Conservation Voters. He previously worked at Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under Law and Voting and Hate Crime work. And before that, he was a teacher. Woo! And next we have Nadine Block with Beautiful Trouble. She's the training director for Beautiful Trouble. She's an activist artist. She's a movement facilitator. She's an organizer. She is at the intersection of culture and people power, and you can read and check out all these resources that we'll be sharing about her work in the chat as we go. Nadine and Justin, welcome.
Thanks so much, Akene and this crew, making this possible. We're really happy to be here for the Rise for Freedom training. I'm delighted. I'm actually calling in from somewhere outside of Philadelphia at another workshop, at another training. So really pleased to be here, normally in the DC area. And I use she, her pronouns, and like was mentioned in my bio, I do a lot of work with a group called Beautiful Trouble. I encourage you all to check out those resources. Justin, you want to say hi?
Hey folks, how you doing? Justin Kwasi, I'm Pronouns Democracy Program Director at League of Conservation Voters. Always trying to find the beautiful connection between our environment and our democracy. So really excited to be here with all of you all, calling from Washington, D.C. Like I said, just excited to be here. Always great to be working with Akene, Caden, and the rest of the team. So let's get to it.
Cool. So you'll notice this whole thing is called action de-escalation and assertive intervention. We're not going to cover everything in the world that you could cover in the next 75 minutes, but we're going to try to cover a lot. So I hope you're ready to run with us through this training. I want to just also for a minute make a note. I know in the beginning there was a slide that said we were going to talk about bystander intervention. We're not doing that. We're doing upstander intervention, if anything. That'll be part of the work that we do because we encourage people to really step into the power that we have together to take care of each other and to communicate across our special knowledge and skills and the way we show up. Which points out we do this work, this de-escalation or upstander work, as well as assertive intervention work, because we're not always de-escalating. We'll talk more about that as we go in here. But as activists, as organizers, as people who want to build together a world that is safer, healthier, greener, more peaceful, more just, more equitable for all of us, it doesn't always take just de-escalation. So we'll talk about that. In fact, this is key. This work is key to simply getting along and talking to each other. And then, of course, talking within our groups, talking between our groups, talking with folks that we don't disagree with across groups, and even all the way up. There's some of this stuff that we're going to talk about today are key building blocks, even if you got to a formal negotiation or a peace building table. So it's a huge collection of work, a huge collection of skills, and everyone has the capacity to join in, whether you're an individual doing something, and we'll do some scenarios with that, or whether you're acting as a community at a protest, for example. So, Justin, you want to add anything?
No, can't say it much better than you. So let's get on to the first scenario.
Cool. So we are going to do a combination tonight of introducing some scenarios and having take a pause, if you will, so that folks can practice. If you are by yourself, you're going to have to recruit your dog or your cat or stuffed animal to pretend with. If you are with other people in a room, we encourage you to step into different roles. Usually in the first few scenarios, they will be with a partner. So it'll be a paired kind of role play, if you will. In fact, if we were in a room, we might do it in a format that we sometimes called hassle lines or opposite line scenarios. We would indicate that you would have a partner to work with, and you would carry out the directions that we give you just with that person. In this way, like I said, you're either going to do it with your stuffed animal or your dog, or you're going to do it with someone in the room with you. We're going to give you a scenario that sets up the location. We're going to tell you what your roles are, and then we're going to say go. And for this particular instance, there'll be a 3-minute timer right here that will give you that much time to do the role play. All right. If people are with us, give us a thumbs up in the chat. Let us know that that's making sense. Now, Justin, I heard that maybe we should model this behavior.
Always important to have great models.
What role should I start? You want to start?
I can start. So well, first of all, do we want to highlight the scenario?
Sure. Want to go back to the scenario? Okay, there you go.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, can we pull up the scenario one more time right before we go?
Or I can read it. I have it actually. So this particular role play that we're going to model and then we're going to ask you all to do is taking place on public transportation. Where we both live, Justin and I, it might be on the metro, a little subway that runs around. It might be on a public bus. It might be on a train that you're taking to and from work. I don't know, but you're on public transportation. One of the people in this role play will be somebody screaming at a third person who's not on screen, but they're going off on this person. Maybe they don't like their shirt, the color of their shirt. Maybe there's something saying something political. I don't know, but they are attacking this person. And the second person in this role play, your job is going to be to get them to stop yelling and harassing the third party, right? Remember, the third party is not active. there's somebody screaming and making a stink about somebody, and then the other person in the role play is going to try to, you know, take the heat out of this situation. So again, find your stuffed animal. Well, for a minute, we'll model it, and then we'll try to show you what it would look like, so that you can do it either wherever you are with whoever you're with.
All right. I will be the disgruntled person. So Nadine, you ready?
Go for it.
All right. Acting. Okay. Hey, what are you looking at? Why is that guy looking at me like that? Who do you think you are?
Hey, excuse me. I'm new here and I need some directions. Can you tell me where are we? What stop are we at?
I don't know. I don't care. Just do you see this guy looking at me? Do you see like do you
No, I'm asking you the
does he have
question.
do you have a problem with me?
Oh, no. I'm thinking you would know where to tell me. I'm looking for this building on L Street. Can you help me out? How do I get there?
Uh, I, I, I
Okay, cut.
okay.
So for example, you can see that's one way somebody's screaming at somebody else, and I used sort of a distraction as my tactic, right? I just walked up and said something completely out of the blue to this person to try and get them away from screaming at someone else. That's just one of many things that you could do. And I'm also going to suggest that people really go to town, right? Because like most things in life, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. So feel free to yell and scream, hey, come on, I really don't like that color shirt you're wearing. That's blah, 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 whatever it is. So you can try out a bunch of things. All right, so we're going to assume, can we go back to the slide so that people have a reference? We'd like you to do a role play and really try to figure out what you could do. So for each person, you don't have much time, whether you're in person or whether you're on your own. If you're on your own, feel free to take some notes. Think about what you would do and take some notes about what you might do. If you're with other people, pair up and try to make it real. Here we go. We've got the timer ready to go. You've got it. Go for it. We'll debrief when we come back. Start screaming at each other. We have 1 minute left. I hope if you need to switch, you can switch, but otherwise stay with it. See what you can do. All right, well, we're going to come back together in about 10 seconds. So we're going to pull up a Mentimeter because that's what we do here on these big webinars. So we can see how this worked for you. So we've got 2 questions. And I thought they would be different ones, but that's okay. Let's go. I can see your screen, who's ever sharing. There we go. Okay, so the first question is, if you're the person who was yelling or harassing, how did it feel? And if you were the lowering the temperature of the interaction, how did that feel? You only have a word or 2. This is Mentimeter, so go ahead and put a word or 2 in the chat. Did it feel great? Was it scary? Was it exhilarating? Was it confusing? Uncomfortable? Excellent. Yeah, keep going. All right. Let's have a few more folks write what it was. Lots of people thought it was uncomfortable.
Weird. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Oh, we've got some folks in the chat saying it was calming or tense, uncomfortable. Excellent. Cool. All right, so let's, and I saw in the chat, somebody was like, there wasn't enough direction given. That is part of the idea of role plays. We don't want to plant, we want you to all have an experience and we can build off of that experience. We're going to give you a lot of information as we work through. So let's go to the next Mentimeter piece. You can continue to write in that if you want. But what we want to know is what happened, if anything, that changed the interaction. Did you do something? Did your partner do something? What would you do if you were with somebody else to change the outcome? Let's have the next poll. Here we go. Oh, I guess we're dropping the answer in the chat. Okay, let's do that. Excellent. I've been seeing some people talking about getting this. How did you get the screamer to talk to you? Go ahead and put in the chat. Did you do anything or your partner do anything that changed what happened in the interaction? There was communication. You stepped in front of the person. So you put your body in between, right? There's some pros and cons. You asked them questions. You let them vent. Offered food. Nice. Asked for help lifting a heavy thing. It sounds like distraction again. Stayed calm. What are you seeing, Justin?
I mean, I saw a couple people turned their back, asking for time. So yeah, I think distraction seemed to be a popular choice for this first one.
Yeah, it looks because I that's the one I chose to model, but it's always fun to do. Hey, look, there's Beyonce.
Football talk. That makes sense. Okay, so try to find some commonality. I like that.
Yep. Excellent. So let's keep going. We're tight on time tonight, but I really appreciate everybody digging in here. There's a lot that you will do, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we have to do. So you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So really quick, what I wanted to do was just show this video regarding kind of situational awareness from Dartmouth University. That's mostly about conflict resolution, but it really is a great primer for some of the de-escalation strategies that we'll be talking about later. So without further ado, just wanted to for you all to watch this and use this as a little bit of a context of how you deal with stressful situations and how you can potentially approach how to de-escalate one of these stressful situations. Let's play it.
Hi there. This brief video is going to describe simple calming and de-escalation strategies. When people are escalated, it often comes from their past experiences with people in the world may have wired their brains to expect harm or danger. When we as humans perceive threat or are otherwise incredibly stressed or angry or scared, we activate our survival brain. This more primitive part of our brain has only one job: to keep us safe. It doesn't care about reason or logic. In fact, the thinking parts of our brain turn off and we act mostly on instincts. These instincts include reading nonverbal cues from our environment. Those nonverbal cues are actually more important than verbal cues or what people say to us. So when people are escalated, at their core, they want control. We give them control over their own safety and decisions. Do not block people, corner them, or block entrances or possible escape routes. As soon as you do, they want to fight or flee even more. Give 2 arms length distance. Keep our body posture open so it does not appear that you are hiding anything. Keep your body posture as relaxed as you can, even if it's hard. A looming, towering figure only sends the message that you want to dominate. So if it feels okay to do so, ask them what would make them feel safe or feel better. Put the control back on their turf. Ask what would help. Ask what could happen next. One of the most famous practices and sayings for de-escalation is low and slow, from Teresa Bolick. Low and slow refers to both your body movements and your voice or speech. Just like it sounds, we want to keep the tone of our voice low and the speed of our voice slow. When you lower your tone and speed, it makes it more possible for the other person to process what you are saying and not feel threatened, as opposed to a higher pitched tone and quick speech, which frankly increases stress. Then we also try to lower and slow down our body movements and posture. So try to sit in a chair or on the floor, especially if you're with children, and especially if the person who's escalated is lower down than you. Maybe they're on the floor or in a chair. If you get on an even playing field, this gives the nonverbal cue that you mean no threat. And try to slow down your body movements so as to not further alarm their cues for danger. Move slowly, walk slowly, keep your hands out and open where they can see them. Next, use the tip, name it to tame it, made popular by Dan Siegel. By naming emotions, we gain control over them. Therapists have known this forever. Acknowledge that they may be feeling anxious, angry, especially if it's a child. Stay with that feeling, validate it. Let them know the feeling is okay as long as they stay safe. We also like to say, regulate over educate. When people are in distress, it's not the time to teach or educate or think back about what they could have done differently. The only goal is to regulate their emotions. Usually this is done by giving space and time, staying calm, and helping provide a calming atmosphere. It takes the body 20 to 30 minutes to come back down to baseline after a perceived or an actual threat. Just think of your own situations when something really scared you or startled you. Even if you look like you're getting back to normal, your body is still pumping all those stress hormones for a while. So just if the person was aggressive or destructive, especially if it's a child, there does, of course, need to be a consequence. But wait on talking about the consequence. Finally, two of the most important things you can do all along the way, and best before people get too distressed, or even while they're distressed, is to validate their feelings and be empathic. I see you are struggling. I see this is hard. If it's okay, I'll stay here with you until you feel better.
All right. So really, once again, really great to have this as a baseline for how folks should react as there are different type of agitators that show up at your events or while you're doing the events that you're doing. So what I want to do is very quickly just kind of highlight some of the common types of agitators that do show up at some of the events that we have. And really, at the end of the day, to make it very simple, in all of these situations, what you really want to do is, if possible, remove yourself or put some distance between you and the agitator. If you can, redirect attention away from them. Contact the event organizer just in order to let them know kind of what's happening. And then if possible, if it is safe to do so, to document. So, in these slides right here, we have, hecklers, if somebody is insulting or name calling or filming, once again, stepping away, trying to drown out the message either with counter protests, songs, chants, something like that. And once again, alert the event organizer. If folks are acting suspiciously, once again, stepping away, event alert organizer. And then if you're in a safe position, try to record or try to document what's happening. For instigators, folks that are, obviously trying to instigate something or kind of putting themselves in your space. Once again, if you can get away, try to get away, but then also, once again, calling security, calling the event organizer, calling the safety league in the organization so that they can deal with it more effectively. And then also if there's counter protesters, once again, if it's possible to ignore trying to do that, but then also using as a counter protest, or sorry, as you being the protesters, using your chants, using your songs in order to drown out their messaging and making sure that your voice is heard as well. But once again, trying to do so in a safe and respectful manner and putting distance between yourselves and whoever those agitators are. So next slide, please, for the next scenario that we want to use.
Yeah, cool. So, and I think if we can, while we're talking it through, maybe we can change this to, you know, 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes. That would be really great. Or we'll come back after that. So, scenario number 2, guess where you are? You're at an indivisible rally. Person number 1 in this scenario has an oppositional view, right? It's one of the characters that Justin talked about. They're yelling, maybe saying angry things, and they're trying to pick a fight. And they also seem to be recording or filming the interaction as if they want to do something with it, right? We've all seen those folks at rallies. Person number 2 is trying to get them to stop yelling and stop disrupting the rally so that it can continue. How about some thumbs up if this is clear scenario? You're at a rally, maybe even if it's not an indivisible rally, but it's at a rally outside, most likely at a permitted place. There's a person who's come with intent to disrupt, and then the other person in this role plays trying to get them to stop yelling and stop disrupting. Excellent. It looks like people are on board with us. Okay, great. So we're not going to model this one. You've just heard a lot about what your options are, what you might try. Feel free to try something you haven't heard mentioned. Those of you who are going to do the job of getting the person to stop yelling and stop disrupting, just be yourself, work with what you got. And the other people, please step into the role, step into the shoes of an angry oppositional person so that you can really offer a choice. And for people working at home by yourselves, please write some notes down and think about this so that we can learn from each other. All right, let's go. What do you say? Here we go. Go for it. Start screaming. Try to address it. We'll come back in about 1.5 minutes. Yeah, perfect. All right, we're coming back. Excellent. So before we go to this, we have another Mentimeter. I think we can stay on the other slide, right? And maybe we don't have another Mentimeter. Do we not? No. Okay, go back. We'll go back in here. We had the original Mentimeters, but let's use the chat then. So let's go back to the scenario before we talk about this stuff. And just say, if you were the person who was yelling and trying to disrupt, how did that feel? Go ahead and put that in the chat. How did it feel to scream and yell and try to disrupt? It was fun. I totally hear that. What else? stupid, okay, helpless, cathartic. Yeah, you got disrupted back. Uncomfortable. One of the real benefits of doing role plays like this is that you get to step into somebody else's shoes. And that is a gift that sometimes can help you figure out what might work to de-escalate or change the outcome. Righteous, justified, thinking on your feet. Yeah, energy drained, didn't serve a purpose. Right. These are great. Okay, so let's hear from the other folks. If you were the person trying to lower the temperature of this interaction and get that person to stop yelling, how did that feel? Let's put that in the chat. Let's have some of those in the chat.
Of course, has to be a guy, Nadine. I heard that.
I know. It usually is a guy though.
It is. It is.
Okay, it was challenging, frustrating, scary. Frightening, stressful. Oh, yep. Oh, you started singing a song. Awesome. Calm, crowded. It felt satisfying. Yeah. So, I mean, this is part of the work this is why we're here to do this training, right? To help figure out what can work for us and how we can best enter into those moments. So yeah, I saw a lot of things in the chat, and feel free if you haven't put them in there, but put it now. What did you do? What worked? If you were the person yelling, did anything work to get you to stop being yelled at? What did your partner do? Or if you're the person who was doing it, what did they do? I know people were singing. Yep, that's awesome. What else? A chant, added clapping. You didn't react. Yeah, nothing worked. All right. Justin, you want to highlight anything here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, having been in similar situations, I mean, ultimately, there is no right answer. I think you're just responding to the moment, but I do think, the fact that you were able to speak up, I think is the important part, right? And so be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a really, really important piece, right? And I love the idea of using humor. I see folks turn their back on them. So let's go. Now we can go to the next slide, and we're going to give you a way to think about conflict, right? And it is conflict that you might have in an ordinary way, somebody screaming at someone else on a public transport situation, or if you're at a rally, and there's a right winger, or if you are like being asked to do something that, by a police officer that doesn't work. You need to have all these basic skills. So the first thing is assess. What are you going to assess, right? You are going to assess the scene, you're going to identify the conflict, and you're going to assess what kind of risk might be in it for you, right? The second thing you're going to do is calm yourself down. And we have B for breathe, but it's really about grounding. How many folks make a good decision when they're stressed out? I actually do, but I make better decisions when I'm stressed, but this is really unusual. Most people make better decisions when they're grounded, right? So that's the first thing. You're going to assess the situation. You're going to figure out how to calm yourself down a little bit. And then C is the big one. At every point, we have a choice about how we're going to react. We have a just decision about, are we going to get involved or not? And how we are going to show up in that moment, right? And that's the two choices are D for de-escalate or E for escalate. And here, I want to talk really quickly about escalate, and then we're going to do the whole talk about de-escalation techniques and assertive intervention. But sometimes we are going to do something that really is not considered de-escalation. So maybe we are in a bank lobby and we want to stay there all day talking to people about pulling their money out of a bank that's investing in war crimes or occupation or pipelines that are against, that are going to destroy the climate. And the authorities, the bank manager is going to come over and tell you to leave or get really upset. So you may de-escalate that, bank manager so you can stay there longer. On the other hand, you might be there to shut that bank down, right? To get people to pull their money out. And in that case, You might just wait and you might escalate the situation until, you get escorted out by authorities or maybe even the police, right? So there's a real choice here. Or sometimes you might be marching in the street with or without a permit because you want people to understand the issue. You want to make the issue visible. And that could be considered escalating. But it might be a choice that we have to reach a goal of big media attention or stopping a wrong. On the other hand, we're going to focus a lot on the different tools that we can use for de-escalation and assertive intervention. So let's go to the next one. First, here's a Mentimeter. What do you personally do to center yourself or to ground? Can you add that into the menti.com? The code is, you can use the QR code there, and I didn't catch the number. If you need it, somebody can put it in the chat. There we go. People do breathe, they use their senses, think about what they're seeing, tasting, smelling, touching. Yep, wiggle the toes. Sudoku, wow.
Yeah, stretching is one of my things. Maybe not huge stretches, but yeah, just moving the body for sure.
Yep, some people like to tap themselves or touch wherever they are. Absolutely. Anybody count to 10 anymore? Yep, I see count. Sure. This is great. So it looks like people have some tried and true things that they do to ground. I would encourage you to practice this everywhere, in the grocery store line, when you're talking to a little kid, when somebody's got whatever. Anybody can, center themselves on a nice pillow in a meditation room, but it's really much more difficult when you're walking around town. Try to invoke that, thinking of the place that calms you down, the seashore, the beautiful woods, whatever does it. Think about how you can access that resource so that helps you ground if you need it. Be curious. Yeah, this is great. All right.
Ukulele, which is an interesting one. So that's yeah. Might
That's
have to try
great.
that one out one day.
Yeah. Do you play the ukulele, Justin?
I do not, so I have to learn how to do it first, but I like it.
That's really great. So let's go to the next slide. And then we're going to share a few more things on, in addition to the ABCs, right? Assess, breathe, choose, de-escalate, or escalate. Here's the 6 Ds. And if folks have taken, different bystander or upstander classes, you'll recognize some of them, but we're going to quickly review them, right? So for some reason, there's only 5 on this one. But the first one is a direct intervention. And we have seen people already talk about this. And that is, people put their body in the way. People have asked others questions. People might introduce themselves. People might shake hands. One thing I would say that is a really good standard practice is never to touch an angry person. Certainly don't touch a police officer or anybody who's packing power. And most likely, even if they're someone you know and love, touching them when they're angry is not often de-escalative. It's often escalative. So that's very important to think about. You want to talk about the second one, Justin?
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about directing action anywhere. So distract. So it's something what we've already done. So as you saw when I was yelling at Nadine, she asked, I forgot what you asked, but that's the whole point. It didn't matter. I was so mad, and she asked me something out of the corner, out of nowhere. And it directs action. It directs the focus away from what the person is angry at, and you have the ability to calm down, to potentially have a conversation, to have the person reassess what's going on. Particularly if they're not necessarily there for ill intent, but just something is overstimulating them in the moment.
Right. And I saw somebody put something in the chat about eye contact. I just want to say, in our culture in the United States, it is great to make eye contact with people. We all think it's okay. culturally, and we believe, some of us, that you can really connect with people or access some part of their soul by making eye contact. I will tell you that in many parts of the world, a woman making direct eye contact with a man is a big no-no and an escalative act. So a lot of these things are really context specific, right? That's really, really important. So also, not to miss, we also talked about delay. I know some people mention that means, sometimes you just add a little time. Let's say there's a whole bunch of people occupying and making a screaming mess at a place you're supposed to gather for a rally. If you can just wait for them to leave, you 5 or 10 minutes, you're ahead of it, right? That makes it easier. Yeah. So we have direct intervention, we have delay, we have distract. The next one is delegate, right? And delegate here, everybody knows delegate means give somebody else the job to do. But in this case, it could be that you ask some other folks to come with you. There's a crowd of people screaming and yelling. You don't want to go by yourself to lower the temperature. Ask somebody to come with you. Or perhaps you're the wrong person for that particular job, whatever it is. Maybe I want a guy to go talk to some other guys to de-escalate something. That would be also considered delegation. Want to talk about distance?
Yeah, absolutely. So distance, obviously, sometimes there are situations where it is safer and makes more sense for you to just put yourself away from the situation, to not necessarily engage. And I think that's okay. So, we always want to make sure that you're safe. We always want to make sure that your presence there isn't escalating the situation in any way. So if you feel like that is what's happening, it is okay to walk away and use that as a redirection.
Great. And finally, we'll just really quickly talk about documenting. Hey, so is whipping your phone out and filming somebody, is this escalative or de-escalative? What do you think? Put it in the chat. Is taking your phone out and filming someone doing something escalative or de-escalative? Oh, look, we have like a whole crew. Both. It can
Yeah, I
be
feel like
both.
very, very much on the escalative part.
Bingo, though. It can be both. So if anybody's ever done any cop watch or anything like that, has seen, one of the reasons we can hold people accountable is that we have documented it. And how do you do it? You do it from a safe distance. And sometimes you're going to do it without letting the person know, so you can hold them accountable later. But if you want to de-escalate in the moment, you're going to be like as far away as you can, but still film it and say, I am filming you. And also, if you are filming, it is really important that you are, if possible, uploading to the web, filming to a server somewhere else. So even if they got your phone, it went live somewhere else, like Facebook Live or IG Live, or it used to be Mobile Justice. So this is really a good thing to know. Also, for folks who maybe aren't as great with their phones, you should be able to swipe your phone and immediately get to the camera. Why doesn't my phone do it? Yeah, there you go. So depending upon what kind of phone you have, you should really know how to get right to your camera so you can film or take pictures without having to put anything in it. Oh, and while we're talking about documenting, and I know there are digital tips happening, when you are outside of your house, so I would say all the time, not only should you check your location services and turn off your Bluetooth, but I would recommend that you don't have any biometrics on your phone. You should have a code, and hopefully a 6-digit or more code to get into your phone, because legally the law can compel you to unlock your phone, or even if you're like unconscious, they can just hold it up to your face and unlock your phone. So this is really important, knowing when to use these 6 Ds to help de-escalate or do assertive intervention to change the outcome of a conflict, to help people be more effective and take care of each other. Is there anything else we want to add right now before we move on?
No, I think with some of our next ones, we're going to reinforce a lot of what we talked about right here. So
yeah, and we will share follow up. We will share the 6 Ds. You can find it right now if you want. I'll put the link in beautifultrouble.org/fuel, FUEL, and there is a handout with the ABCDs and the 6 Ds. All right, over to you, Justin. I think we're in the next session.
yeah, absolutely. So this next slide that we have, oh, sorry. once again, yeah. So, and, you know, in the interest of time, I think this is just another way to talk about the D. So once again, the most important thing that you can do, and the thing that gives you the most power, is if you stay calm in whatever the situation is. Think through it, and figure out which of those Ds that you need to use in order to best address the situation. Making sure to redirect focus, using non-threatening body language, and setting boundaries. Once again, keeping distance between you and whoever that agitator is incredibly important. And then, as we said at the very end, if you have the ability to document, if you have the ability to record, definitely using that as a way to make note of the moment and using that as a technique as well. Once again, just a different way to say all the 6 Ds in a little bit different language. Next slide, please. All right. So really quick, what I want to do is just talk about what are some of the things that you should think about as you go to your next protest, as you go to your next event, in order to make sure that you're safe, in order to make sure that you can respond in the proper way, no matter what is happening. So one of the things we want to talk to you about is making a plan. So the best thing you can do before you go to any of these events is have a full plan about how you will react, how you can leave, who you're going to meet up with if something does go wrong. Once again, not expecting that things will go wrong, but having a plan with yourself and who you're going with, and also people that you're not going with, is incredibly important. So making a safety plan that identifies exit routes and safe meetup points is incredibly important. But it's also important for you to share that with the people that you're going with, and also sharing it with 1 or 2 people that you're not going with, so that they know where you're supposed to be, where you're supposed to go if something were to go wrong. So know where to go where something goes wrong. It also is incredibly important. One thing that we tell people too is have an emergency contact, and have that emergency contact on you. So whether that's in your wallet, in your purse, if something would happen to you, that somebody knows who to reach out to, or even if you write it on yourself, where it's something happening, here, if something does happen to me, here's who you should reach out to, is a really great idea. Going to digital security, Nadine talked about this a little bit earlier, so happy to reinforce this, but making sure that you have you turn off all the biometric locks on your phone, so nothing that can identify your fingerprint, nothing that can identify your face. And as she said, in situations, law enforcement can compel you to use their biometric data, but they can't compel you to use your password. And then also, as you're going out, making sure, at least for while you're out there, avoiding social media. So please don't post in real time where you are. Maybe afterwards, if you want the picture, that's great, but not showing where you are in the moment is incredibly important. And then also, as you're communicating with folks, using encrypted messaging apps like Signal, and other ones. Right now, for the kind of chat that we had in order to build up for this program, we're using Signal, so it should just be a general thing that you use regardless of where you are. And then the final thing is, for your personal safety, make sure to dress for safety. So in an ideal situation, you are dressing in plain clothes, something that doesn't make you easily identifiable in case something does happen. Sometimes, look, it makes sense that you have to dress up as Uncle Sam. We understand. But in general, staying away from that, as well as clothing that can help you react quickly. So ideally, you don't have open-toed shoes. You have closed-toed shoes so that you can already get away or react quickly if something does happen. And then, of course, pair up, never wander alone. Please go with folks. And that kind of goes back to the make a plan earlier, and making sure that you have a buddy system, or you have somebody that's accountable to you if something were to go wrong. Nadine, any other kind of tips from here that you have or that you give to folks?
This is all good. I think we keep going.
All right, fantastic. So the next part we want to do, want to give a quick caveat before we do this, is that I am not a lawyer, so please do not take this information as legal advice. But what we do want to do is just give you some legal protections that you should think about as you do some of this work. So as you all are going to these events, it's incredibly important that you are organizing under the First Amendment, right? It gives you the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, press, religion, and petition. So you have the right to be there. That is what gives you the right in order to be a part of these events. But the devil is in the details. And so while you can protest, while you can show up to these events, there are clear state and local laws that determine how you'll be able to do that around permits and curfews and kind of blocking streets and sidewalks. So it's incredibly important that before you go out, you do look up what the local laws, what the local regulations for protesting, for doing large mobilization events are in your local area, to make sure that you are doing it in the right way that still doesn't run you afoul of the law, if it does happen. Also, just want to let you know that for law enforcement, we have this saying where police can monitor and protest and enforce laws and intervene for public safety, but cannot use excessive force to retaliate against peaceful demonstrations. So as you're protesting, it is important to know that, and know that there is a procedure that happens before there are arrests. So the way that it should happen is before you are arrested, law enforcement must provide a dispersal order, basically specifying that it is time to leave and giving people a safe way to leave before the arrest can be made. That is how it should happen. And so when that happens, when you're at some type of event and you do hear those warnings, it is best to leave quickly, quietly, or put your plan in action on how you will leave in a way that doesn't disturb law enforcement, doesn't disturb anything around you. And then also, obviously, we don't expect you to be arrested. You shouldn't be arrested. But if you do, it is incredibly important that you remain silent. And if you are arrested, really the only thing that you should say is that you want to speak to a lawyer or be silent. In some states, you may be required to give your name, but for really the best, I think we've seen it all in TV, movies, and everything like that. Being silent or requesting a lawyer really are the only two things that you do if you find yourself in a situation where you happen to be arrested. Nadine, anything else from this slide?
I think this is great. I mean, many people here go to demonstrations with or with groups or as part of larger organizations, and a lot of this information, action agreements or legal information or permits, are established by the folks putting on demonstrations. So just to keep in mind that this is really recommended, that we work together with each other. We do get advice when we need it, and often groups are providing it. It is true that we must continue to exercise our freedom of speech, our freedom of assembly, or else we don't get to keep it. And so even though sometimes it may seem that there is risk to taking action in a democratic backsliding or an authoritarian regime situation, the risks of not taking action are even greater than doing nothing, than doing something. So it's really important that we do continue to exercise our First Amendment rights, and all of them that we have. Check.
Yeah. And I did see something in the chat saying, tips for protecting limited mobility and disabled folks for attending. I think once again, that goes to what we talked about earlier, really clearly making a plan for how to exit, how to remove yourself from the situation if something does happen. Once again, making a plan early is the best way to protect yourselves in that situation. And so doing a little bit of homework for the physical surroundings and how that will affect you should be a part of that plan. So once again, we're getting low on time. So also just wanted to do this one slide just because there are a lot of questions about ICE. Once again, not a legal expert, but did want to give you some rights or some things to think about if ICE does appear at your event. So once again, we always start with it. Stay calm, activate safety plans. So once again, whatever in your plan, you should have contingencies for if ICE does show up. But if ICE does show up, once again, saying as little as possible, asking questions. If you are in a place or if you're in a private place, whether it's your car, your house or anything like that, if law enforcement is approaching you and is asking questions or does want to search something, confirming that there are warrants there, confirming that it and seeing what it says is incredibly important. And then once again, knowing your rights. So let me go through a couple things that you should consider if ICE not only shows up at an event, but also any place that you live, work, or any interaction with them. So really, there are kind of three amendments that we want you to keep in mind as you're interacting with ICE. Number one is the Sixth Amendment, which is your right to a lawyer or a fair trial. So if you are a citizen, you have that right. For some of these immigration cases, it becomes a little bit more confusing, just because for some immigration cases, the government doesn't actually have to provide a free lawyer, but they can provide a list of local legal services. So ideally, as you're making your plans for these protests, having a list of kind of what some local legal services, pro bono, immigration attorneys that are available is a great thing to have. The Fifth Amendment, the right to remain silent, which we've already talked about. The government can't punish you for saying nothing. So being able to use that and saying as little as possible is one of the rights that you do have. And then the Fourth Amendment, which is the right against unlawful searches and seizures. So this includes your home, your car, and even your belongings that are on you. So your personal wallet, and anything like that. And in order for that to happen, law enforcement must have a warrant, consent, or probable cause in order to do that. So just a couple of things to think about if you're engaging with ICE, but once again, your calm response is your power in these situations. And Nadine, once again, passing off to you if there's any other things you want to highlight from any of this advice.
Yeah, just do what you can, work within your communities with others who are ready to mobilize. Much better. This is a situation where acting alone is not as powerful as acting with others. So we really do encourage folks to make connections in the communities that you're in, who can help you really use all this work. And yeah, the confirming the warrants, make sure the warrants are signed. Don't let people in your house or in your car or whatever. But we also do know that once the rule of law is breaking down, there are a lot of things that are happening that are not legal, and we have no recourse to stop them. So yeah, let's keep going. Use this information as you can. Think about all of your skills in conflict de-escalation and apply them when you can.
And then the final thing, just want to leave with you: if you are hosting one of the events, it is incredibly important to appoint safety leads. And so we've kind of talked about all the things that you consider, but making sure for the whole event as a whole, what is your safety plan in order to get people out if something does happen? And how can you have a smooth, safe, and lawful event? So that does include communicating with law enforcement and explaining to them what's happening, what your plans are, and how you will communicate with the audience, how you communicate with attendees if something were to go wrong, right? And ultimately, so here are just a list of some things that if you are an event host that you should consider. And as an attendee also is incredibly important as you attend events, to understand kind of who are the people in these roles as safety leads, who can you reach out to if something happens, and identifying those people early, that in case something does happen, you know who to report to. Because as we've talked about in many times, a lot of people, for a lot of reasons, might not think that law enforcement may be the right people to go to, but there should be individuals around that can coordinate, work with, and you can report incidences to without going directly to law enforcement and being efficient. So just a couple of things to think about if you're the event host, and obviously if you're an attendee at one of these events. Next slide, please.
Cool. So we're going to take a minute to offer a tool for those of you who are in the work of helping plan things, or who are interested in diving a little deeper into identifying what you could be dealing with and how you might respond to make your event work better for you and for everybody there. So we call this an early warning, early response threat analysis sheet. It was developed by an unarmed civilian protection group that uses this all over the world, even in situations where there are armed actors or armed forces working. So you'll see on the left side, you're going to identify in the darker blue spaces a type of threat. And it could be everything from, there's bad weather possible at your rally, whether it's extreme heat or a lot of snow and cold. It could be, the threat would be that you don't actually have a safety team and you might need one. It could be that there are right-wing wing protesters coming to challenge, your progressive event. It could be the role play that we just did with somebody who's coming to disrupt it. And you will see in the light blue columns, there are things that you can prepare ahead of your event and there are things that you can do during your event, and there are things that you can do after your event to make everything work smoother. So this particular early warning, early response sheet is extremely useful, whether you're acting on your own or especially if you are putting together an event and want to be proactive about making this a better and safer experience for everyone. So we're going to go to the next slide. We've got a very short time for this, but what we are going to do is, again, there's a little scenario, I think, in the next slide. And the scenario, we are going to encourage those of you working alone to write down some answers, and those of you working in a group to have a short discussion with a group. We will put the screen back up so you can see the columns of identifying threats, identifying what you can do before, during, and after the event to make those threats less of a problem. Here's the scenario. It's June 14th. It's coming up. No King's Day. We've got a rally underway at a local state capitol. It's a big park. But it only has 2 main entrances. It's got high fences around the rest of it. At one entrance, there seems to be a large group of right-wing aggressors. They're threatening, they're loud, they have signs, and it appears that some of them have weapons. They're armed. At one end of this group, this loud right-wing group, some of our No King participants are engaging in a heated argument with them. We would like you to talk about what would you do? What could you do now to make this go smoothly? So if folks want to take a screenshot of this, or maybe we can capture this and put it in the chat for your reference. I'd like folks to put up, let's go back and put up the early warning, early response framework. And we're going to take, let's say, 5 minutes to make a discussion in our groups, or to write things down if we're on our own. If, for example, you're not doing rallies, but you want to think about your next mutual aid dispersal, write that down too. What are the threats that you face? What could you do before that happens, during it, or after it? So that we can really dig in a little bit about how we set ourselves up for success. So if you could put the slide back up with the early warning, early response framework, that would be great. And then we will put the text in the chat. Maybe I can do the text in the chat. Let's see if I can get a hold of that. So people can see what to do. We will take 5 minutes so you can talk about what it looks like to plan and deal with early warning, early response. All right. All right, here we go. I'm dropping, maybe will let me drop it in the chat. There you go. In the chat, I've put down the scenario, and hopefully we'll see on the screen right now the early warning, early response framework. So we're going to take 5 minutes for people to write down themselves or talk within their groups. So if you can go, Kaden, one more slide back so we can see this, the early warning, early response frame. And we're going to give you 5 minutes before we ask for some feedback on this. All right. Can you just go back to the early warning, early response slide? That would be really great. Here we go. 5 minutes. Discuss in your groups or take notes where you're at. Justin, can you go back to the early warning, early response chart? Not Justin, Caden.
He might be having a Wi-Fi issue. I can try to
Okay,
take
there-
over. Kaden, speak up if you're able to.
There it is. Yep. Thanks so much.
Hello. Cool. Can you see the early warning, early response slide?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Cool. We'll take another 30 seconds or so. I see some great comments in the chat. I hope you all are having really interesting conversations within your groups for those of you with folks, or maybe you're writing some things down for future use. Looks really great. All right. So just some things that I've noticed. I love this idea of the brass band drowning out the crew, right? The threat of the right wing. I think it's also really important to think about maybe visuals that you could use, banners, puppets, things that you could use to either separate them from the rest of your group or lead people to the other entrance, right? That's another thing. I don't know if anybody thought about it. You have two entrances. Maybe you just encourage people to go to the other side of the park. A question also for you all is, do you have a de-escalation or marshal or peacekeeping team? What is their role here? Are they ready to direct people? Are they engaging with folks? I saw somebody wrote down, know your escape routes. That's also really important. Yep, clown noses, that can be fun. Justin, you see anything you want to highlight?
Um, I mean, you'd like to safely leads around the periphery. I think that makes sense. And of course, this is what democracy looks like, chant. I mean, I think you can never go wrong with that chant.
Well, we might disagree on that one, but I think definitely having a chant leader, right? There is a threat you could write where no one has a chant, no one's ready to lead it. You don't have songs, you wish you had them. Really thinking about what the art and work looks like. I think it's also really important. I saw a lot here about, we did put weapons. We mentioned weapons, armed actors, whether they have knives or whether they have guns. If you have a situation like that, that could be a big threat before the event. It would be really good if you're one of the organizers to make sure that you have a plan and potentially a decision or a way that you are going to deal, a policy on how you're going to deal with folks who show up with weapons, whether or not you're going to call authorities, the police or security, to deal with them, whether you're going to move your people away, and how. It is totally legitimate to delay something or put distance between yourselves and people who are armed. It's not necessarily the time to try to de-escalate them yourself, but to let the system deal with them. However, in many situations, many people, many communities do not feel safer with police around. So this is something you have to decide within your group, and individual responses that say people can leave, are totally appropriate as well. All right. Anything else that came up that we should highlight before we close this out and thank folks? I'm really glad that you all are thinking about this. The best thing that we can do to prepare is to make sure that we work together. When you go to a rally or something simple, go down the street, have a buddy, go with them, use the tools at your disposal to handle situations, whether it's listening, whether it's thinking about the worst thing that can happen and dressing in, maybe it's something as simple as bringing an umbrella with you, right, to shield from the sun or the rain. So we really do encourage all that. We have some materials that we'll share. These materials, as well as the ABCDs of de-escalation and assertive intervention, are available at beautifultrouble.org/fuel, FUEL. You can find these sheets there, and we'll send you more things too as follow-up. So I think I'll say thank you. Justin, do you want to say anything to close out? One more thing?
No, just really, really happy to be doing with you. Thank you, Nadine. And as we said the whole time, I think, just remember, stay calm, stick to your plan, make a plan, stick to your plan, and you'll be all right.
Great. So let's do this as a closeout. We're going to do a chat storm. So that means I'm going to ask you a question, but don't hit send until we count down to 0. We're going to count from 3 to 0. And the question is, give us one word, okay, or maybe 2 words of something you're taking away from this last hour and a half that we spent with you, talking about de-escalation and assertive intervention and preparing to have better events together. Think about what it is. Go ahead and write it in the chat. A word or 2 about what you're taking away from tonight, and I'll count down from 3, 2, 1, 0, go. Well, yeah, look at all that. They got it. Plan, community, prepare. Yeah, distract, vigilance. Yeah. Thank you. Empower, de-escalation, more confidence. Thank you so much for all of that. I turn it back over to the folks who are for Public Citizen and closing out tonight's session.
Thank you so much, Nadine and Justin. This is fantastic. So our next training is on mutual aid and strengthening your community. And it's next week, Thursday, same time, same place, except a new link. So you have to sign up on Mobilize or watch your email for emails from Mobilize if you already signed up, or from one of our listservs for Rise for Freedom, where we can also share that link. But thank you so much again to all of our presenters. It's a gift. We're going to outro as we always do with music. And if you didn't sign up for the next training, link is in the chat. And you can find if there's a local one near you as well if you scroll down and don't want to just do virtual or host one.